And Lita, another great friend of mine, has been with us for 3 years on this program. So if you have any questions for her, please do not hesitate to ask. She's another one that loves to answer questions. So please let me know if you need more chairs. I'll bring more out as well. Do not hesitate to ask me anything.
All right, good morning, family. Good morning. And I call us family because we're all here because we care about one of the most precious generations that are around, and that is our senior aging population. So for one reason or the other, we are here to support that population. So we are here to talk about being a caregiver. And a little bit about myself. My name is Nalita, as was mentioned, and I am the founder of a program, Dementia Caregiver Support Program. And one of the things that we do is provide resources, education, support, training for those who are loved ones that have a loved one that has dementia or dementia-related illness. But it's also personal for me because I too am a caregiver. And so when I first brought this program to our nonprofit, I said, let's just test it out and see how well it does. And because it's so many people that are caring for a loved one with dementia, this program took off. So I'm honored to be here today, and let's get started talking a little bit about caregiving. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is the D word. And of course that D word is dementia. So the first question is, what is dementia? And this is something that is so often confused when you go to the doctor, when you get a diagnosis. So we're going to talk about it. Dementia is the general term for a decline in mental ability severe enough to interfere with daily life. It's not a specific disease, but rather a group of symptoms. And then some of the characteristics, as we see here: memory loss, confusion, difficulty communicating, personality changes, and impaired judgment. Now, what's interesting is I often will hear people ask me, is it dementia or is it Alzheimer's? And people are we more commonly hear that term Alzheimer's. But what I want to do is help you all today understand Alzheimer's is one type of dementia. And it's very important to understand that. So I've broken down here kind of the 4 most common types of dementia. Alzheimer's, which of course is the most common, vascular dementia, Lewy body dementia, and then frontotemporal dementia. And why this is important to understand, and I've heard this actually shared before, and I borrowed this explanation. If you remove the word, replace the word dementia and think of cancer. If a person says to you, I have cancer, you probably are going to ask what type of cancer. It could be colon cancer, it could be breast cancer, pancreatic. And that makes a difference, right? Because the type of cancer will determine the type of treatment and the things that you do for that. Well, it's the same thing with dementia. Dementia is the umbrella condition, but you want to understand what type of dementia a person may have, because it could mean different symptoms, and it could also mean that you handle things and do things differently, different treatments. So these are the top 4, but there are actually over 100 different types of dementia. So as you're taking your loved one to the doctor and you're getting testing, sometimes you gotta force their hand a little bit and ask them, can we determine what type of dementia this is? So now let's talk a little bit about as caregivers, okay? Caregiving is a lot. It's a journey. And some of the challenges of how caregiving can impact you emotionally, stress, anxiety, depression, even guilt, grief, physical, fatigue, insomnia, health issues. Social. We have a virtual support group of caregivers of over 4,000 caregivers from around the world. And one of the biggest issues that they talk about is the social piece. You lack being able to get out and go with your friends, go places because you're caregiving. And then also financial. Many times caregivers have to change their work situation, and there's a lot of out-of-pocket costs. So while you're here, definitely make sure to check out the different resources that can help in some of these areas as well. As a matter of fact, one statistic shows when it comes to caregiving, in many cases, the person living with dementia outlives the caregiver. So it's really think about that as we go through this conversation today. If you're a caregiver, how do you keep yourself knowledgeable, but also where your quality of life doesn't diminish? So let's talk a little bit about common myths, because knowledge is power, right? So we'll talk about a few myths that are out there, especially if you're a newer caregiver, but even if you've been for a while, you may still have some of these myths. So is it just a part of aging? And I find when I talk to people, sometimes people hold on to this because they may not want to accept that their loved one has dementia. But if we can dispel some of these myths and not make it so scary, it's okay to understand this is not a regular aspect of aging. Yes, there are some things as we get older, we have some things happen, but the parts that demonstrate as dementia are not normal aging. People with dementia don't know what's going on. We see this often where families will have their loved one with them, and they will talk as if the loved one is not there. And we understand because in some way they might feel like they're protecting their loved one, but that's a myth. People living with dementia, especially now because of medicine and technology, are living 8 to 10 years longer than they once did. So a person living with dementia can live longer and still have good quality of life. So we want to dispel that myth. People with dementia don't know what's going on, so we talked about that. There's nothing you can do. Many people, if you're in the caregiving position, you may have felt that way at a time or two. But that's false. There are resources and things out there that can help you, and there are things that you can do. And then this last one, they're just being difficult. And as a caregiver, I can tell you, this one is one of the hardest ones. I'm part of a caregiving team, and often we feel like our loved one can help it. You're just being difficult if you line those shoes up by the door one more time, right? But understanding that this is part of the illness. They can't help it, and then their personality does weave in there, which can make it a little more challenging. But understanding that this disease is impacting them, and in many cases they can't help the things that may be making us feel crazy. All right, so let's talk about, get more into this about how we take care of ourselves. So a few things here. Create a consistent daily routine. Now, I'm not going to put you all on the spot, but many times when I do this presentation and I ask people, how many of you have a daily routine? Very few hands go up because we're so, yay! I love it, and it's so good because often when you get in the trenches of caregiving, everything becomes for your loved one. I can even say in my family's case, my dad, he used to be very active, go out and have a life. But because he's been really trying to help my mom, I've had to remind him of this. Because if you're not careful, he's at times the whole day just not really done anything but looked out for her and then maybe just watched some videos. And so those are things that can really start to impact the quality of your life. Use clear, calm communication. And again, I know this is not easy, but as you remember that their limitations, the limitations of your loved one, to help yourself to not be so frustrated, use clear, calm communication. Offer choices to empower them. Sometimes your loved one with this illness, they may be wanting to do certain things their way, but if you can give them another option, if you can give them, well, maybe instead of putting the shoes here in front of the door where none of us will be able to walk out, maybe let's put the shoes over here, right? If you just tell them, stop putting the shoes there, take away the shoes, you haven't really helped, it's really just gonna make both of you frustrated. So where you can, try to offer different choices. Ensure a safe living space. This is very, very key. As the illness progresses, their peripheral vision changes, a lot of things will change. And so what you may have thought was just no big deal, maybe a rug coming up here or other little aspects, really you want to have someone come and take a look at that. I will have to shout out Raph over here after this presentation. If you haven't talked to them, they actually have some really good resources where people can come and actually come to your home and talk you through some recommendations. So that's a key. I also will say if you have a neurologist for your loved one, ask them to give you an order for occupational therapy. It is amazing. We thought we were being sick, but this person came in and showed us, even in the bedroom, how we can move dressers, explaining how these angles may be difficult for our loved one to see. So when we empower and help our loved one, we're really helping ourselves. Encourage simple activities. Now that will vary based on your loved one, but try to monitor. See, the key is you don't want them to feel frustrated. If you think about yourself, we've all been frustrated with something that we wanted to do, but we can't. So imagine that your loved one is experiencing that, but maybe not able to communicate their frustration. Well, think of a small child. What would that child do? Maybe act out, maybe get angry, maybe try to hit you. So when we think about a caregiver, to keep yourself safe and protected, the more you can help your loved one, the better it will be for you. And then validate emotions, don't argue facts. This can be a really difficult one. So I'll give a personal example. My grandmother has passed away, and my aunt has also passed away. But my mom believes they are still alive. So when my mom first got this disease, and she would say, "Is Mama? Did you talk to Mama? Where's Faye?" Which is my aunt. And we would argue. And my stepdad especially, he's just a kind of no-nonsense guy. And he would say, "Your mom is dead." And he was frustrated not understanding the disease. So what we've learned, we've gotten creative. And I know sometimes this can be hard as caregivers. We feel like we're not being honest. But remember, we're trying to protect them from themselves, but also keep ourselves mentally and physically healthy. So recently, a funny kind of situation, my mom wanted me to call my grandmother. I mean, she just insisted, call Mama. So I picked up my cell phone, and my mom also thinks I'm her older sister. So I'm like, "Hey Mom," and I'm having this conversation, and my mom was just as good as could be. In her mind, we had checked in with my grandmother, her mom, and she was good. So you'll find creative ways, and initially it feels like you're being dishonest, but you'll find when they keep their quality of life, they're happy, now you're happy. Let's continue with helping ourselves. So staying safe and healthy as a caregiver. Know your limits. Burnout is real. Show of hands, has anyone ever felt burnt out? Oh yeah, almost 100%. It's real. And as I mentioned earlier, right now statistics show that the loved one with dementia is outliving the caregiver. So we have to take burnout very seriously. Schedule regular health checkups. Okay, I won't ask for a show of hands, but I do know many caregivers can tell you like clockwork when their loved ones' doctor's appointments are, they're getting their loved ones to the neurologist, they're getting their loved ones medication, and then you ask them, well, when was the last time you went to the doctor? So they've gotten so busy with taking care of their loved one that they're neglecting their own health. Use tools, calendars, reminders, timers. Now again, based on what's comfortable for you, this will vary. Some people are old school, everything is written down in a notebook. Some people are very tech savvy. My sister and I, she's the tech savvy person. I will have 100 different notebooks, but I kind of know where I need to go for them. But definitely the key is use those tools. They are there to help you with this. Limit isolation. Now, I want to talk about this a little bit because, again, I mentioned I have a virtual support group. We have about 4,000 members from around the world. And one of the most popular things they talk about is not getting help. So when I say limit isolation, know that I get it. It's hard to get people to help. How do you avoid being isolated when you're there with your loved one? So a few things I like to say is this. People do want to help. Often they don't know how. And often they're overwhelmed too because they want to help you, but they don't really know about this disease and all of this. So what I encourage you, use very specific requests. Can you sit with my loved one for an hour? Can you pick up maybe an extra bag of potatoes at the grocery store? Right? Very simple things. Hey, I'm going to put a video on. I just need some me time. Can you just come over and sit with them? See, people, when you give them very specific items, often they're more likely to help. Instead of just saying, why is nobody helping me? I feel like I'm doing this all alone. I can't go anywhere. Try that. Try to vary it and use very specific things. Move your body. Even 10 minutes helps. Again, I've watched my stepdad, and before moving in with them, I would stop by in the morning and he'd be in one position watching his Netflix or whatever videos. I'd come in the evening and he'd be in that same spot. And I'm saying, well, Dad, have you gotten up? Well, I can't leave your mom. I can't go anywhere. See, we don't want to get caught up in just not moving our body. Because again, we have to think about how do we stay healthy. So even 10 minutes. And it can be helpful if anybody follows me on social media. I do little TikTok videos with my mom dancing. So where your loved one is, now of course, as things progress, this may not be something you could do. But while you can, maybe it's moving with them. Maybe it's something as simple as walking to the end of the block with them and back. So you're kind of accomplishing two things. You're getting them moving, but you're also staying active. Say no when needed, guilt-free. I know. That is a hard one. It's very hard to say no guilt-free. But if you don't take anything else from this, please know it is nothing wrong with saying no. We all have limitations. And sometimes you're going to have to say, I can't do this. And you're going to need help. All right, let's continue with self-care. So sometimes when we talk about self-care, it can be kind of just one big bubble. But to break it down a little bit, we want to break it down into physical, mental, and emotional. So again, with physical, you want to maintain physical activity, walk, music, hobbies. You want to maintain that. Mental, fill your mind with good things. I keep going back to my stepdad. You know, he will get caught on some of these videos, and I'm like, I'm not sure this is going to help your mental health. So watching the news all day may not be good for your mental health right now. So think about ways that you can it positive. Maybe it's music or maybe it's whatever it is. But fill your mind with good things. And then emotional. I think I'm almost out of the journals, but if you would like to write, journal, call a friend, find a way to fuel your emotional and your psychological well-being. So here's just a few tips on how to do that. One, assess your needs. Before you think about self-care, understand what you need. Everybody's different. As I mentioned, some people, I'm a very sociable person. So for me, self-care is having someone come over, I'm probably gonna talk their head off. But for my husband, please leave him alone. He very much does not want to be bothered if he is getting self-care. So understand what your individual needs are. Consider your stressors. Assess your needs, get to know your stress sources. So again, everybody's different. When my sister and I were first dealing with this with our mom, when my mom would repeatedly ask the same question, I thought I was going to lose my mind. I don't know why that frustrated me so much. But my sister was like, doesn't bother me at all. Ask away. So learn what's for you. Certain what bothers one person or what's hard for one person may not be hard for the next. So determine what your specific stressors are so that you can work around that. And then schedule time to focus on your needs. This may look like 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Sometimes it really is just that small. But you would be surprised at what 5 minutes in the shower, blocking out all other distractions, can do for you. Okay? Or it might look like lunch with a friend. Or if you're a parent and you have maybe other children, maybe spending some time with them, whatever it is, schedule that time. And I say schedule because I would be willing to bet, as caregivers, when your loved one has a doctor's appointment, what have you probably done? Scheduled it. Why? Because you want to make sure you don't miss it. So when we schedule it, that tells our brain this is important. So schedule your time. Again, it can be as little as 5 minutes. So a little bit more about my program, Dementia Caregiver Support Program. As I mentioned, we have virtual support groups. We also are there to help you navigate the journey. When we first got the diagnosis of cognitive impairment, I had no idea what that meant. And to be honest, it was right before the pandemic, and I thought, oh good, it's just cognitive impairment. And we didn't really do anything. Then a couple of months later, I noticed that my mom was having a little bit more challenges, and I took her to the doctor again, and they said, well, you might want to start getting her a little bit more active and things like that. So I thought, okay, no big deal. And then the pandemic hit. And as we all know, in those beginning years of the pandemic, everyone was isolated. My mom lost her sister and her mother during that time. And at the time it happened, it was before vaccines and all that, so all we could do was go stand on the porch, on one side of the door, and she was on the inside, and just cry with her. So what our organization, this program does is help you navigate what does this journey look like? How can you maintain quality of life? What I always share is for us in our program, it's not about memories, it's about moments. So you want to do what you can to create quality moments. And as I mentioned, now because of advancement in technology and medication, it's not like it once was. Our loved ones can live longer and have better quality of life than maybe it used to be. So that's one of the things we do. We help you understand, we connect you with a lot of the resources that are here, for example. Trainer programs, again, these are just a few of the things that we do. We collaborate. We are currently in collaboration with Fairfax Family Practice because one of the issues that we found is that when you start noticing certain things, you may go to the doctor and told the doctor, they seem a little forgetful. And the doctor may say, oh, well, little mild cognitive impairment, but then nothing else happens. And often you're not talking to medical professionals again until maybe mom or dad has gotten lost or they didn't recognize you. And at that point, months may have went by where you could have been taking a more proactive approach. So we're working with them to help stand in the gap so when they do get the cognitive impairment diagnosis, they know where to go. Like, what does that mean? What do we do? Even with a dementia diagnosis, so many people have said, so what does that mean? What does it mean to have dementia? So that's one of the things that we do. And of course, a little bit about me, as I mentioned earlier. So I am a certified life coach, specializing in wellness, aging, counseling, all of that. And our mission is to empower caregivers and women in transition to heal, reclaim identity, and align their lives with purpose without guilt or shame. So are there any questions before I wrap up? Yeah.
So when you talk about the network of resources,
Yes.
how can I get that?
Yeah, so on our website, we're actually building a portal where we are collecting resources to make it easier. Virginia actually has a lot of resources, as we see from this event today. But the problem is, if you didn't catch the news and knew about this event or didn't get that email, sometimes it's like, where do I go to get information? So we're building that on our website, but when you reach out to us, you now have access to a lot of the people who are in this room because we're going to direct you with them. We work very closely with RAFT, as I mentioned earlier, and just the other local organizations. So definitely reaching out to us. What's not on the website, if you email, we'll talk with you and make sure you have what you need.
I just have a question. If the older person, you don't know that they have dementia until years later, but the doctors are saying, well, they moved from Florida to New York and that contributed to things because they moved too late in life. Is there truth to that?
Yes and no. So it's not necessarily that caused it, right? But any type of disruption, it can cause further decline, and it can cause them also, even for example, getting anesthesia. So they've found even when your loved one who has dementia, maybe they need a surgery, something like that, and they have to get anesthesia for the process, often that can impact afterwards. They may see a bigger decline. So there is some truth to things kind of exacerbating it, if you will, but it's not that it's causing it, right? But you do, and there are certain things you want to do as a result, or because you know those things can happen. And I know my partner over here is going to talk a little bit about it, but that disorientation of things looking different, being different, which is what you're talking about, that move, it can be very harsh for them. So there are things that, I'm not going to take away, but there are things that you can do when you know that there's going to be a big move that can help that process. Absolutely. Yes.
How can we get access to your online support?
Yes, so I have my cards here. Right now we're meeting virtually once a month, and we kind of have like certain themes. So our next one is happening next week. And it's actually going to be about how to know if you should look into assisted living. So that's going to be our topic, but it is a space, it is a space where sometimes our people will join and they won't say anything, they keep their camera off. Honestly, it's just a place to know that I'm here with people who get it. So I will definitely make sure you have that information, but you can also, when you go to the website, you should be able to find it too. Anything else? Well, thank you all so much. It's been an honor to share space with you, and I will turn it over now.
So, the website you're talking
This down. You're right on time.
that will.
All right, everyone, we're going to be taking another 15-minute break. So again, get some more snacks,